Imagine this. You walk into your office, maybe Monday morning, coffee in hand, ready for the week. You start sorting through the mail, and bam, there it is. An official notice of inspection, an NOI from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. They're demanding your company's I-9 records. Now, for anyone in HR, compliance, or, running a business, that moment, it can send a real shiver down your spine. And here's where it gets really interesting and frankly pretty intense. When IC serves that NOI for your Form I-9s, you have this non-negotiable, like, blink and you miss it deadline, just 3 business days to respond.
Yeah, 3 days. It's not a suggestion. And mistakes in that response, or even just being late.
Yeah.
Incredibly costly.
Incredibly costly. Let's talk about that. What does costly really mean here?
Yeah. Well, we're not talking pocket change. We're talking potential fines that can easily get into the tens of thousands of dollars per violation.
Per violation, wow.
Exactly. And if your company has had I-9 issues before, repeat violations, those penalties escalate even more dramatically. So look, this isn't just about, checking a compliance box. It's really about protecting your company from some very significant legal and financial exposure. Serious risks. This deep dive, it's really tailor-made for you, whether you're that HR pro, a compliance manager, or a business owner, because we want to give you a clear roadmap for those critical first 72 hours.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. Our mission today is basically to turn what feels like this terrifying government summons into something manageable. Your strategic 3-day ICE Audit Response Kit, if you will. We're going to walk you through day 1, those immediate kind of crisis triage actions, then day 2, where we dive deep into the document review, the legal strategy piece, and finally day 3, covering the actual submission and, just as importantly, what happens after you hand everything over. Think of this as your shortcut to feeling maybe not relaxed, but confident, replacing that panic with a concrete plan. Oh, and just a quick, important note here. The information we're sharing, it's for educational purposes only. It's based strictly on the response kit document we're discussing. It is absolutely not legal advice here. Don't take it as such. Always consult with your own legal counsel for specific guidance tailored to your situation.
Good point. Absolutely crucial.
All right, then. Day 1. That NOI has just landed on your desk. The clock is officially ticking. You've got roughly 72 hours. Where do you even begin? What's the absolute first thing you do in this immediate triage?
The very first thing, non-negotiable. Secure that notice of inspection itself, the actual paper, and immediately assess its scope. What does that mean? It means photograph it or scan it the moment it's served, like right then and there.
Why so immediate with the photo?
Because that image with a clear timestamp, that's your proof of service. It establishes your exact deadline, no arguments later about when the clock started, and you need to meticulously note where ICE plans to conduct the inspection, if they specify, and exactly what documents they're asking for. Is it all I-9s? Current employees, past employees, or maybe just a specific department or time frame. You got to record the ICE agent's name and contact info too. Try to figure out, is this a broad random audit or is it targeted for some reason? That really informs your strategy.
Okay, that makes sense. Getting the timestamp, knowing the scope. Seems small, but sounds critical.
Yeah.
So you've captured the NOI. What's the next immediate phone call or email? Who needs to know, like right now?
Activate your internal response team immediately. This means notifying your top company leadership, your CEO, president, owner, whoever's at the top. No delay. And this critical, really critical. Contact your immigration legal counsel.
How quickly?
Ideally, within the first hour of receiving that NOI.
Wow, 1 hour. That's fast.
It sounds fast, yeah. But an experienced attorney can immediately help you understand the precise scope, prevent common missteps, things that can really complicate matters later on. Then alert your HR director or manager. And establish a single point of contact for all interactions with ICE. Usually that's going to be your HR lead or maybe your attorney. And don't forget, brief your front desk staff, your security folks. Tell them to direct all ICE agents or any calls about this directly to that designated contact person. You absolutely want to prevent anyone from, speaking out of turn or, even worse, just handing over documents before you're ready.
Yeah, that single point of contact seems key. Prevents accidental oversharing or conflicting messages. Okay, so you've alerted the people. What about the documents themselves? What happens to the actual I-9s and related files?
This is a step people sometimes overlook, but it's utterly critical. Implement immediate document preservation. You need to issue what's formally called a litigation hold or a document hold on all relevant records.
What does that mean in plain English?
It means you hit the pause button on all routine document destruction. You tell your staff, probably in writing, do not shred or delete anything related to I-9s or employment records right now. Nothing. Secure all the Form I-9s you have, paper, electronic, wherever they are. Safeguard supporting records too, like your payroll data, your employee lists, relevant tax documents. Back up any digital data immediately. And restrict access to these sensitive files. Make sure only your designated response team can handle them. This prevents any accidental or, frankly, even intentional destruction that could later look like you're trying to hide something. Obstruction is a bad look.
Okay, so everything's basically frozen and secured. You've stopped the shredders. What's the first thing you actually do with those documents on day one? Do you just start counting them?
Pretty much, yeah. You begin a rapid internal audit. We call it an initial document assessment. It's like a quick internal head count. First question, how many I-9s should you actually have? You need to consider all your current employees, right? Plus any recently terminated employees who fall within that retention window, which is typically up to 3 years after their hire date or 1 year after termination, whichever date is later. You got to keep them for that long.
So it's not just current staff.
Definitely not. And this isn't just counting forms. You're also doing a quick scan for glaring issues. Are any I-9s just completely missing? Do you spot obvious errors like, big blank fields, missing signatures from the employee or the employer? Expired work authorization documents listed in Section 2 or 3. It helps to separate the I-9s for current versus terminated employees right away. Then create a preliminary inventory list. Just names, hire dates, termination dates if applicable. This quick scan gives you your first real snapshot of your potential compliance exposure, where the big holes might be.
Got it. So it's a quick pulse check on your compliance health. What specific documents should you be scrambling to locate and have ready on day one, even if you're not handing them over just yet?
Right. Ready, not submitted. On day one, you need to locate all the 4 I-9s within the scope current, and those retained for former employees. Gather your complete employee lists, both current and terminated. Make sure they have dates. Find your payroll records for whatever period ICE specified. Any corporate documents, like articles of incorporation, if the NOI specifically asks for them. Don't volunteer things they didn't ask for. And absolutely all your E-Verify records and reports if your company uses E-Verify. Get them organized, locate them. But remember, the key on day one is finding and securing them, not automatically providing them to ICE. That decision comes later with your lawyer's input.
That's a really crucial distinction. Locate, don't just hand over. Okay, what about communication within the company on day one? Especially, how do you handle telling employees, if at all?
Internal communication is absolutely paramount on day one. Beyond just alerting the core response team, you need to give an executive update to your leadership. Tell them about the NOI, give them your initial assessment of the potential compliance exposure, however rough it is, and outline your immediate response plan. Keep them in the loop. Crucially, consult with your legal counsel on your immediate strategy for all internal communications, including what to tell staff. Then coordinate your HR team. Assign specific tasks, give them clear deadlines. Everyone needs to know their role in these first 72 hours. And finally, you need to decide what, if anything, to tell your general workforce. The goal here is usually a consistent, calm message to prevent panic or, rumors and unauthorized disclosures. Transparency is generally good, but controlled strategic messaging is essential here.
Makes sense. Controlled messaging. Now, speaking of communication, how do you manage that initial interaction with the actual ICE agent? You mentioned earlier, definitely don't hand over documents right away.
Absolutely not. Do not hand over any documents immediately when they serve the NOI. Remember, you have those 3 business days by law to prepare your submission. Your role, or your designated contact's role, is to be professional, cooperative, polite, but also firm about your rights in the process. If something in the NOI isn't crystal clear, maybe the scope or specific document request, it's okay to ask for clarification. And this is vital. Document every single interaction with ICE. Dates, times, who you spoke with, what was discussed, any requests they made. Keep a running log, meticulously. Now, if they ask complex questions, or questions that seem to go beyond the specific scope outlined in the written NOI, the best response is usually to refer them to your attorney. It's perfectly acceptable and often advisable to say something like, "Thank you, I've noted your question. Our legal counsel will follow up with you on that." But remember, just because they hand you an NOI doesn't mean they have the right to just walk into non-public areas of your business. An NOI is not a judicial search warrant. It doesn't require immediate document surrender on the spot.
Okay, good to know. So by the end of this whirlwind day one, it sounds like you should have your leadership informed, your legal counsel engaged in advising, an internal response team mobilized and briefed. All the potentially relevant documents should be located, secured under a litigation hold, and you've done a quick initial assessment to get a sense of your I-9 compliance status. You've basically triaged the immediate crisis. Now, how do we shift gears and prepare for day two? What's the focus then? So day one was all about that rapid response, getting things under control. Day two sounds like where we really have to roll up our sleeves, right? This is your full day, maybe more, for the deep dive into organizing everything, reviewing it meticulously, and figuring out your strategy before you actually submit anything to ICE. Your attorney is probably glued to your side at this point.
Pretty much, yeah, or at least on speed dial. After the initial controlled chaos of day one, day two is all about methodical execution. Calm, focused work. You start by systematically organizing all those I-9 forms and related records you gathered. I always suggest separating current versus former employees. It just makes the review process much cleaner, less prone to error. Then, the critical step. Cross-reference every single employee on your payroll roster for the audit period with an actual I-9 form. Every employee who should have one must have one accounted for. If you use E-Verify, identify those employees and group their records together. The big goal here is to create a master tracking spreadsheet. This thing becomes your Bible for the audit.
What goes in that spreadsheet?
Everything important. Employee names, hire dates, termination dates if applicable, the date the I-9 was actually completed, what IDs were presented and recorded in Section 2, E-Verify confirmation numbers if you have them. This master list ensures nothing slips through the cracks. It gives you that panoramic view of your compliance situation, form by form, and serves as a vital index for your whole submission.
That spreadsheet sounds like an absolute lifesaver for keeping track of hundreds, maybe thousands, of forms. Okay, you've got everything indexed. What's the next big task for day two?
Now comes the rapid compliance review. Essentially, it's a swift internal self-audit of each and every I-9 form you're going to submit. You're quickly checking Section 1, the employee's part. Is it complete? Signed, dated correctly. Then Section 2, the employer's review and verification part. Did you record the right document information? Are the dates correct? Is it signed and dated by the company representative? And Section 3, if applicable, for verification or rehires. Was that done correctly and on time? This is where you start identifying and categorizing the two main types of errors. First, there are technical or procedural errors.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, like maybe you missed putting the date next to your signature in Section 2, or you forgot to check the citizen or lawful permanent resident box in Section 1, even though the employee provided docs for it. Minor fixable things, usually.
Okay, technical errors. What's the other kind?
The other kind is substantive violations. These are much more serious. Examples. Accepting a document that's clearly invalid or expired for Section 2. Having a completely unsigned form, either by the employee or the employer. Or, the most critical one, having an I-9 that indicates, or other records that show, you might have hired someone knowing they weren't authorized to work. So during this review, you make a detailed list of all the issues you find, form by form, and you specifically mark which ones appear to be those technical errors that might be correctable. Day 2 is your golden opportunity to catch and potentially fix mistakes before ICE flags them.
That distinction between technical and substantive errors sounds really, really important for potential penalties. Okay, besides the I-9s themselves, what other supporting documents are you prepping on day 2?
Right, it's not just the I-9s. You need to prepare all the supporting documentation that was specifically requested in the NOI. Don't guess, look at the list. This commonly includes things like payroll records, maybe wage reports, timesheets for the relevant period, updated employee lists, both current and termed, corporate documents if they asked for them, like articles of incorporation or business licenses, and, of course, your E-Verify confirmation pages or audit trail reports. The key here, again, is thorough and logical organization. Put things in order. Make it easy for ICE to review. Being meticulous now saves you immense headaches later, and frankly, it implies good faith and professional handling on your part.
Okay, so you've done this deep dive review, you've found some issues, maybe a mix of technical and potentially substantive ones. How does all that translate into your actual legal strategy with your attorney?
This is exactly where that close collaboration with your immigration attorney becomes paramount. You sit down together, go through your findings. You assess the severity of the violations. Are we looking mostly at fixable technical errors, or are there more serious substantive violations? Or, worst case, are there red flags indicating potential knowing higher violations? Categorizing these issues is absolutely crucial because it directly impacts the potential penalties ICE might assess. Your attorney can help you estimate your potential fine exposure using the government's published penalty guidelines. It gives you a realistic picture of the financial risk. Then, you plan a precise correction strategy for all those fixable technical problems. Remember, ICE generally provides a 10-business-day cure period to fix technical or procedural failures after they notify you of them. So you want to be ready to make those fixes fast. And perhaps, most importantly, you start preparing your defense arguments. You gather and document evidence of your company's good faith efforts to comply.
Good faith efforts. You mentioned that before. Tell me more about what that looks like and why it matters so much.
It matters hugely. Good faith can significantly mitigate penalties. It shows ICE you weren't intentionally ignoring the rules. What does it look like? Things like proof of regular internal I-9 audits you conducted before this NOI arrived, records of employee and manager training on I-9 compliance, consistent use of E-Verify, even if not strictly required for your company. Having clear written I-9 policies demonstrating these past efforts can absolutely lead to reduced fines, and being able to fix those technical errors quickly within that 10-day cure period. That can often prevent penalties for those specific issues entirely. Your general cooperation and responsiveness during the audit process itself also play a role, especially if this is your first audit or if you're a smaller business. They might cut you a bit more slack if you're cooperative and trying. But be acutely aware, if you have prior I-9 violations on your record, ICE will likely come down much harder. You'll be treated as a repeat offender, and fines jump significantly. So cleaning up your submission now, before they even see it, is profoundly critical.
Okay, that makes the strategy piece much clearer. It's not just finding errors, it's about context and demonstrating effort. So on day 2, you're deep in these documents, deep in legal strategy. How do you keep the internal communication lines open and make sure everyone inside the company is still aligned?
Yeah, you can't let internal comms drop just because you're buried in paperwork. You need to continue those vital updates.
Yeah.
Provide a more detailed executive update to leadership. Here's what we found in the review. Here's our assessment of the potential risks and fine exposure. Here's the strategy we're developing with Counsel. Coordinate closely and constantly with your legal counsel on the final strategy decisions. Make sure everyone's on the same page. Assign any remaining preparation tasks clearly to your HR team members. Make sure everyone knows exactly what they need to do for day 3 and what the deadlines are. And if it looks like penalties are a real possibility, you should probably notify your finance department at this stage, just so they can be prepared for potential financial impact. No surprises internally is the goal. Maintain a unified front.
Good point about finance. And as you're organizing all these hundreds, maybe thousands of documents for the day 3 submission, are there any specific best practices you recommend just to make sure everything is presented perfectly and securely?
Absolutely. Presentation matters. As you organize, keep the I-9s in a consistent order, maybe chronological by hire day or alphabetical by last name. Whatever you choose, stick to it. Use consistent file naming conventions if submitting electronically, or use clear tabs and labels as submitting physically. Make it easy to navigate. Maintain a clear chain of custody for all the documents you handle, who touched what, when. This helps ensure integrity. And crucially, preserve confidentiality. Limit access to these sensitive files strictly to your designated response team and your legal counsel. Don't leave stacks of I-9s lying around. These steps help prevent loss, tampering, or unauthorized disclosure. And again, a well-organized professional submission signals to ICE that you're taking this seriously.
Okay, so day 2 wraps up. Your documents are meticulously organized, reviewed, potentially corrected where possible. Your legal game plan is firmly set with your attorney. You sound like you're finally poised for the final push. Day 3. That's all about the submission itself and thinking about what comes next, right? All right, we have battled through day 1 and day 2. We've made it to day 3. This is the culmination of all that intense, meticulous work. That 72-hour window is closing today. How do we make absolutely sure everything is perfect, buttoned up, before it actually goes out the door to ICE? What's that final check?
Yeah, before anything leaves your control, you perform one last meticulous document review and quality control check. Think of it as the final inspection before the real inspection. Double-check every single I-9 you're submitting. Are they all complete? Accurate to the best of your knowledge. No missing pages stapled together. All necessary signatures in place. Are the copies legible? You don't want to send fuzzy scans. Verify that your supporting documents, the payroll records, the employee lists, actually align with the I-9s and the time frame requested. Do the names match up? Dates make sense. If you're submitting electronically, test the files. Make sure they open, they're readable, they're clearly labeled. No corrupted files. Create a clear document index or a table of content for the entire package. This helps both you and ICE navigate what you're sending. And finally, have one last huddle with your attorney. Confirm the final approach, review the cover letter, make sure any specific legal arguments or points you want to make are clearly articulated. This final check catches any little thing missed in the rush of the last 48 hours.
That final 2C check sounds absolutely essential. Okay, everything's double-checked. What does the actual submission package look like? How do you put it all together?
Now you assemble the package itself. If you're submitting physical copies, organize them neatly. Use labeled folders or binders. Make it look professional, not just a stack of loose papers. If it's an electronic submission, ensure you're using the proper file format ICE requested, and again, use clear, logical file naming. You'll definitely need to write a professional cover letter, put it on company letterhead, address it directly to the specific ICE agent named on the NOI.
What goes in that cover letter?
It should clearly list all the documents you're enclosing or uploading. Refer to your index. It should also provide the contact information for your company's designated point person. And critically, if your attorney is going to be the primary point of contact going forward, the letter needs to state that explicitly. You should also attach the attorney's formal notice of representation, the Form G28 usually. This formally tells ICE, talk to my lawyer from now on.
Okay, the package is assembled, cover letter is ready, G28 attached if needed. What about the logistics? How do you actually get it to ICE on time? This seems like a place where things could go wrong.
Absolutely, you cannot afford any slip-ups here. Day 3 deadline is day 3. First, double-check, triple-check the exact delivery address and contact person listed on the NOI. Don't set it to the wrong office. Plan your delivery method carefully. Will you hand-deliver it and get a date-stamped receipt right there? Will you use certified mail with return receipt requested for tracking? Or is there a secure electronic upload portal they specified? Know the method. Schedule your delivery to ensure ICE receives everything by the deadline. Sending it on day 3 might be too late if it doesn't arrive that day. Factor in delivery time. Assign a specific, reliable person from your team to handle the actual submission. Don't leave it to chance. And always, always, always obtain definitive proof of delivery, whether that's the date-stamped receipt from hand delivery, the certified mail tracking confirmation showing it was received, or an email confirmation from ICE if uploaded electronically. Keep that proof safe. After you send it, it's also good practice to just send a quick email or make a brief call to the ICE contact just confirming they received the package. Closes the loop.
Okay, proof of delivery is key. So you've done it, the package is submitted, maybe you got that receipt, the 72-hour deadline is officially met. Huge sigh of relief, right? Or, now what? Does the stress just magically disappear, or are there still critical post-submission things you need to be doing or thinking about?
Well, the immediate deadline stress might lessen a bit, but no, the work definitely isn't over. Not by a long shot. You need to shift immediately into post-submission preparation mode. Start anticipating potential follow-up questions from ICE. They almost always have them after their initial review. Remember those technical violations you might have identified back on day 2? If ICE flags those, you generally have that 10 business day window after they notify you to fix them. So be ready. Have your correction plan ready to implement immediately. You'll need to provide proof of correction back to ICE. Ensure your attorney stays fully engaged and looped in for this next phase, especially if ICE issues what's called a Notice of Intent to Find, or NIF. That's when things get really serious regarding penalties, and you'll need legal guidance on how to respond or negotiate. And critically, use this whole experience as a learning opportunity. Don't just put it behind you. Document the lessons learned from this audit process. What went well, what didn't, where were your weak spots, and immediately start working to improve your company's ongoing I-9 procedures. Maybe that means better training for your HR team or managers. Maybe implementing regular internal self-audits so this doesn't happen again. This audit, stressful as it is a wake-up call. Turn it into a catalyst for strengthening your compliance moving forward.
That's really excellent advice. Don't waste the crisis, learn from it. Okay, one final really practical point that seems super important. You touched on it earlier, but let's clarify. What exactly should you submit to ICE versus what should you retain internally? And maybe most importantly, what should you definitely not submit unless they specifically ask for it again later? This sounds like a common area for mistakes.
It absolutely is. Companies often oversubmit, thinking they're being helpful, but it can backfire. So let's break it down clearly. First, what to submit to ICE. Stick strictly to what the NOI requested. This typically includes the I-9 forms themselves for the specified employees, current and retained former ones, the payroll and wage records they asked for, the employee lists they requested, any corporate documents if, and only if, they were specifically listed in the NOI, your E-Verify records if applicable, and of course your professional cover letter with the index. That's it. Stick to the list. Second, what to retain internally and not submit initially. This is all your internal audit trail, your work product, and your legal defense materials. Keep the original NOI itself and your proof of service for it. Keep that meticulous communication log you maintain with the ICE agents. Keep complete copies of every single document you submitted to ICE. You need your own record. Also, keep all your correspondence with your legal counsel and any internal notes about your legal strategy. These are protected by attorney-client privilege. Do not send them to ICE. Keep your internal audit notes, like that list of violations you found during your Day 2 review. And keep any documentation showing corrections you made. This is all for your records and potential defense. And third, and this is critical, what you should absolutely not submit unless explicitly requested later in writing. This is where companies get into trouble by oversharing. Do not send general personnel files that contain way more than I-9 info. Don't send extra immigration documents that aren't directly related to the I-9 requirements, like copies of H-1B petitions or asylum applications, unless specifically requested. Definitely do not send internal legal memos or your attorney's analysis, again, privileged. And don't send other unrelated business records like your company's financial statements, customer lists, supplier contracts, none of that, unless ICE specifically asks for it later down the line. Providing extraneous documents can unnecessarily broaden the scope of the audit and open up entirely new lines of inquiry you really don't want. Less is definitely more here. Stick precisely to the request in the NOI.
That is super clear and incredibly helpful advice. Stick to the list, keep your internal work internal, don't volunteer extra stuff.
Got it. Okay, so we've walked through the intense 3-day response plan. What does this all mean for you, our listener, if you're ever faced with an ICE I-9 audit? Let's try to recap the absolute critical takeaways from this 3-day ICE Audit Response Kit.
Yeah, let's boil it down. First and foremost, remember those timelines. They are critical. You've got 3 business days to respond to that initial notice of inspection. Then you generally get 10 business days after ICE notifies you of technical errors to cure them, to fix them. And if they issue a notice of intent to fine, you typically have 30 days to request a hearing or negotiate. Missing any of these deadlines can be incredibly costly, leading to harsher penalties or loss of rights. And those penalties, as we definitely established, are far from trivial. Those paperwork violations, even things that seem minor like a missed date or box, they can result in fines of thousands of dollars per violation, per form. And if ICE determines that your company knowingly hired or continued to employ unauthorized workers, the penalties become far, far heavier. We're talking potentially tens of thousands of dollars for each offense, especially if you're deemed a repeat violator. The stakes are very high.
A really crucial insight here, too, is knowing your rights during this process. Remember, ICE cannot just walk into non-public areas of your business without your explicit consent or a judicial warrant. That NOI or an administrative subpoena they might issue later. That is not a judicial warrant allowing them entry. Know the difference. You absolutely have the right to legal representation throughout this entire process from day one onwards. Use it. And, as we discussed, promptly fixing those technical or procedural violations within that 10-day cure period, that can often be done without incurring a penalty for those specific errors, so act fast on those.
Absolutely. And finally, I think the big takeaway is, while getting that ICE audit notice is undoubtedly daunting, maybe even terrifying, staying calm makes a huge difference. Being organized, following a structured plan like this 3-day approach we outlined, maintaining strong internal coordination with your team and your lawyer, and meticulously documenting everything, all of that can profoundly influence the outcome. It can potentially reduce or maybe even eliminate fines. Plus, by going through this, even though it's stressful, you'll inevitably identify weaknesses and improve your I-9 processes, which leaves your company in a much stronger, more compliant position for the future. It's forced improvement in a way.
Exactly. To connect this to the bigger picture, an ICE NOI audit is really a true test. It's a test of your HR compliance readiness, your systems, your training. By following a structured, deliberate response like the one we've discussed, you can navigate the audit much more confidently and ultimately protect your organization much more effectively. So this really raises an important question for you, our listener, to think about after we finish. Based on everything we've discussed today, what specific I-9 compliance step, maybe it's better training, maybe it's regular self-audits, maybe it's clarifying your document retention policy, what specific step, perhaps one you hadn't prioritized before, will you implement in your organization starting now to ensure you're always prepared for that unexpected knock on the door?